וידבר השם משה לאמור, דבר על בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, מועדי השם אשר תקראו אותם. The Moadi Hashem, meaning it's referring to the holidays, the times of Hashem. Moed is time. Asher tikru osam Mergei Kodesh. You should declare them as Mikrei Kodesh. We'll see what's mean gatherings of holiness. The Moadei Hashem, the times which Hashem set in place, which is referring to the regalim, to the festivals, you should declare them as gatherings of holiness. Those are the Moadei Hashem. Seems to be a little redundant here. Let's see Rashi. You should set times during the year. Teach us that the times where the Beis Din has to declare it as a leap year. Why? We'll see. The Gemara tells us that Pesach always has to be in Chodesh HaOviv, has to be in spring. So unless every once in a while they add an extra month, the seasons are off, and since the Yom Tovim have to fall out during certain seasons, they don't coincide with where they should be. Therefore, the Sanhedrin has to set the Moadei Hashem. Okay. So over here, there's a Siforno, very beautiful Siforno. If you have a Bikros Gedos Mikdash Psukni, so the two psukim which precede this, the Nikdash Psukni, so Lasso Eskem the flows, Commotion Dati, Bomri. I will do with you, bring about wonders among you, as I promised you. Hini Korisi Bris, Neged Kamchi, so that's in the flows. Hashem says at the time he took us out of Egypt, in the presence of all the Jews, I will bring wonders. Why? Ki omnom ani Hashem mekadishchem, I am Hashem who sanctifies you. Amotzi eschem eretz Yisrael, lios lachem lilokim. What does it mean to be your God? Lios manig estem bilti emtzoi. We've mentioned that every nation in the world has an archangel. Hashem had promised us that when he took us out of Egypt, he will do it personally. There won't be any intermediary between ourselves and himself. There's not going to be an archangel. But it's a level that you removed from material. When will I interact with you? Our relationship will be as if there was no intermediary. That's only if you live and function within the context of Kedusha. What's Kedusha? You're removed from material. And what's removed from material? Living within the context of what Hashem prescribes, how a Jew is supposed to live. You should not learn the ways of the Goyim. When you not be concerned for the signs of the heaven, when there's an ominous sign which seems to be forecast disaster, it has no relevance to you. But that's only if you live within the context of my Kedusha. Ani Hashem, lo shanisi v'esim. He says, I am the same. I will not alter our relationship. However, im lo you, but that's only if the sins don't separate between you and God. It has to be similar to when you left Egypt. Only then will you be worthy of these wonders. Okay, now the next Sifar is interesting. These are Moadei Hashem, the times Hashem Shatikru Osam Nikrei Kodesh. You should declare them as gatherings of Kedusha. After Torah discusses the korban, the species, and in what state does the species have to be unblemished, and the Kohen who's deficient, who brings them, Shekavonahi Ashoros Hashchin B'Yisrael. What is the intent of the korban and the officiants, that through them the Shechina should dwell among the Jews? Kamro Oilas Tomid L'Dorosechem Pesach Made L'Fnei Hashem. It's a continuous burnt offering for all generations at the entrance of the communion tent, L'Fnei Hashem, Ashivoy L'Chem Shama, where there I will meet you. We're speaking about the Yom Tovim, where the intent is you should refrain from physical activity. Certain of these holidays, total removal from the material. Shabbos Yom Kippurim, Shabbos and Yom Kippur, even though Chol Nefesh, food-related activities are not permitted. Lasot b'kulam b'Torah basic kodesh, and you should be involved, engaged in Torah study and other aspects of kedusha. Komro sheish yom tavod, as it says in Torah, 6 days you shall work. You're involved in the material. Yom Hashi Shabbos la'Hashem Elokecha, shetishvos m'lachcha v'eskecha kula la'Hashem Elokecha. Shabbos you should be fully invested in Hashem. Ubikzosom. However, some of the holidays which Hashem designates, it's only from activity which is considered avoda, which is something which is unrelated to the Yom Tov. Why does Hashem permit food-related activities on these holidays? That so Jews should be able to rejoice with their maker. We should not be fully involved in just the spiritual, we're involved also in the material. Because as human beings, we have to be actually accommodated to be able to be in a state of joy. Yom Tov, you divide the day between Hashem and ourselves. And if we live within this context of Shabbos being Shabbos and Yom Kippur, totally dedicated to Hashem and Yom Tif, we're in a state of joy because we're involved in Ochel Nefesh, in food-related activities. He says, without a question, the Shekhinah will dwell among us. Ka'amro, Elokim Litza B'Naskel, Amma Osam Modim Shetikru Osam, Bikorei Kodesh. What does it mean? Those holidays which you declare as Bikorei Kodesh, Pirush Asifos Able Iske Kodesh. Why? It's declaring gatherings, assemblies for the sake of Kedusha. Asifas Om Mikro, Tikra Mikro. When you assemble the people, that's called Mikro, because you announce people should gather. Mochodesh, Mishabas Kro Mikro, Chen al Mechuvin, Hatzir, Elam Odei Hashem. Next report is very important. If you utilize the time in these contexts, that it's for the sake of Hashem and for the sake to rejoice with Hashem, that's why you're involved in Ochel Nefesh, in food-related activities. Those are declared Modei Hashem. Those are the assemblies of Hashem. What about if the assemblies are not for the sake of Kedusha? You have other intents, social gatherings. Yom Tov, we're able to get together, we're able to socially interact with one another. You're only involved in activities of ordinary activities, only to address the physical and to indulge in pleasures. Lo yeh moadai, he says, those are not my holidays. Aviyu modechem sono nafshi. Those holidays, those gatherings, I despise, I detest. I will not be involved. So the gatherings have to be gatherings of Kedusha, something which has relevance to Hashem. Why are we celebrating? It's interesting, we always mention the Maral of Prague and the Rav Kalatsky speak about this, that all the holidays and the Yom Tovim, which are on the Jewish calendar, are not only commemorations, but it's a reenactment. It's re-experiencing what happened exactly on that day. The same energies that brought about the particular event at that day, those same energies are released by Hashem to bring about the same result. So, for instance, Pesach is Geula, is redemption. So, for 7 days, we have to refrain from chametz, and we have to follow God's script, the Seder, whatever we do. And only then are we beneficiaries of the energies which happened at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And today, thousands of years later, we're the same beneficiaries. You should know all generations that you lived, that you are beneficiaries of the Sukkos, which according to Rabbi Akiva of the Amnei HaKavod, to re-experience the value of the clouds of glory, which was to be engulfed in spirituality. When you sit in the Sukkah and you observe that mitzvah properly, you meet all the criteria of what a Sukkah is, then you're a beneficiary of those energies, which are the Amnei HaKavod. Now we're approaching Shavuos, which is Yom Matan Torasenu. So it's a reenactment of Kabbalas Torah. So if you have the mindset and you observe the day with the mind that this is actually the Kedusha of today is the Kedusha, which is a reenactment. It's a release of the similar energies which took place at Kabbalas Torah. We become beneficiaries of that. But of course, you have to observe the day as prescribed by Hashem. But if the day itself is purely for the sake of the material, for social reasons, and you cross many lines, and you don't meet Hashem's criteria, not only it's not assemblies of God, God says, I detest it, because that has no relevance. That has no relevance to what I'm all about, in terms of what it means to be a beneficiary of our relationship. That's how the Sefarnos study. It's Moadei Hashem if it's Mikrei Kodesh. If the callings are assemblies of Kedusha, that's Moadei Hashem. And if it's not assemblies of Kedusha, these Moadim, Son and Nafshi, quotes the Pasuk, I despise them, I detest them. It's almost a disgrace. Could you imagine you invite a tzaddik to your table to celebrate the Yom Tov, and the subject matter which is discussed at the table is all, you're talking about gambling, you're talking about things which are unrelated to anything which the tzaddik represents. It's almost a total disrespect. Why did you invite the tzaddik to your table? It's an offense. If you appreciate, understand who the man is, he doesn't belong here. Hashem says, I'm only with you if you talk my language. If you walk my walk and talk my talk, then I'm here. If you don't walk my walk and talk my talk, which is Mikrei Kodesh, Son and Nafshi, these holidays I despise. I want nothing to do with them. Then you're on your own. That's the meaning of what? Of Moadei Hashem, which is the ultimate Mikrei Kodesh, the ultimate. Shabbos is the first Mikrei Kodesh. The Koros L'Shabbos Oneg, Posuk. Although we are involved physically, we enjoy the day, and we're supposed to enjoy the day. However, the preparations for the day have to be prepared before Shabbos begins. Because we have to commemorate, we were chosen by God to be his testament to the world that he's the creator. If that's the case, as he refrained from creation on the seventh day, creative activity, we, being his testament, we have to refrain from creative activity on the seventh day. But that's the first assembly of Kedusha. That's the bedrock of everything. That the world should understand that Hashem is the creator. I always say, if there's a creator, that means there was an objective, there was a purpose in creation. So first we have to declare to the world, and we have to be representative of that Hashem is the creator. And that's why the Gemara says, Hamachal Shabbos, he's a Mu'min Chol Torah Kula. A Jew who does not keep Shabbos, it's as if he's rejecting the Torah in its entirety. You know, you have Reconstructionist Jews. They put on tefillin, and they may do many Jewish rituals, but it's purely cultural. It has nothing to do with God. If you don't believe that God is the creator, and you live and you violate the Shabbos, which is contrary to being God's representation of that, it's as if you rejected the Torah in its entirety, although you put on tefillin and you say Kaddish and you eat matzah on Pesach. Doesn't make a difference. Of course, the fundamental identity of the Jew is what? We represent God, that he is actually the creator and he's the master of the universe. Wait. He explained just now, when the Torah speaks about Shabbos, it says, Kodesh Lashem. The day is designated, consecrated totally for God. That's what it's about. I once mentioned him, Rameir Simcha. We have Beinot L'Chaver, we have Beinot L'Mokom. Shabbos is a day we have to focus on our relationship with Hashem. It's not an interactive, it's not to secure and shore up our relationships between Beinot L'Chaver. That's not Shabbos. Shabbos is Shabbos L'Hashem. Clarify, to be not distracted, to understand who God is, and what is the meaning of God to ourselves. It has nothing with us among ourselves. And we once discussed what's the whole concept of Onik Shabbos. Shabbos is what is Chanukah Sabriya. It's like when you build a house and you move into a home, you have a Chanukah Sabayis. The Chanukah Sabriya, establishing the world that it exists, which is what we call Shleimus. The world has come to a level of completion. It's a time to rejoice. Who are you rejoicing? Rejoicing in God, because this is the context through which God brought about the concept of creation, that mankind should recognize that he's the master. That's the purpose of creation. The Navi says, L'chodi barosiv. I've created this world for my glory, for my honor. That's where I've created this world. So the world was completed on the seventh day. Now we're ready for real time. In this context of creation, but if it's for God's glory, you have to recognize that he's the master. How do we recognize he's the master? So the Jews, by emulating his way, that 6 days he was created, the second day he refrained from creation, we are the testament to the world that he's the creative. That's the objective of what? Of creation, l'chodi barosiv. He created the world for his honor, that if you recognize his honor, despite all the challenges, then you've succeeded. That's what Shabbos is. That's Shabbos L'Hashem. Yom Tov is something else. Yom Tov, as he said, or Meir Simcha, but he says emphasize a different point. It's Beinot L'Chaver. Freshly cooked food, baked food, the provisions of transferring from domain to domain, we're not restricted. We have all this interaction among ourselves. But he says also, Yismach Yisro B'Oso. When we have another level of joy, we're able to rejoice with him. The concept is rejoicing. Because a human being, when we rejoice, we function totally different. You know, like Yom Kippur is solemn. It's a very solemn time, even though it's the ultimate. But the Yom Kippur is not Simcha. Samachta b'chagech, when a Jew rejoices, it brings out another level of function and feeling within that context of rejoicing. Shabbos comes to Hashem and says, the Torah comes to Hashem, says, when we were in the desert for 40 years, we weren't involved in any physical activity. We had the man, we had the Ani Akavot, there was no illness, our clothing grew on us, and all we basked in Kedusha. So the Jews studied Torah day and night. That's what we were doing. There was no distractions. The level of clarity was at a special level. So Torah comes, but once they go into Eretz Yisrael, each person has his portion of land, and he has his vineyard, and he has his field, that they're not going to have time to study. What's going to happen to the Torah? So Hashem says, your bas zivug is your partner, your mate is, Shabbos is your mate. Shabbos is a day that the Jew is not permitted to be involved in any of the physical. That's the day every Jew is going to study. So Shabbos is a day to be fully immersed in the study of Torah. That's what Shabbos is. That's Kul Lachem. That's Kul Hashem. But that was the response Hashem had said to the Torah itself. Your bas zivug is what is Shabbos. That's your partner.
Rabbi.
It's